Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. Thanks for attending our webinar today on using Edulastic with Google Apps and Google Classroom. I am Leslie Tyler, and I'm Head of Partnerships here at Edulastic. I have everyone on mute now so that we don't have any background noise, but if you have a question, you can use the chat window on the left-hand side of your screen. And if you use the chat window, everyone will be able to see the message, kind of like we were saying greetings earlier. Or you can click the Ask a Question button at the top, and I will make sure to get to all these questions at the end. I'm recording this webinar today so that you can share the link with friends that couldn't come. And I'm really looking forward to sharing some of our great integrations. Slide to change here. Okay. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to create some quick formative assessments in Edulastic that you might also do in Google Forms, or that you might be doing now in Google Forms. So first, I'll use some of the reasons to do online formative assessment, reasons to do formative assessment either online or in conjunction with other methods. Next, I'll show an example of creating an assessment in Google Forms, and then doing that same assessment in Edulastic. And we'll see this, it's just a quick 4-question assessment, and we'll see the real-time data that you can get from Edulastic quizzes. And then finally, I'll show you our integrations with Google Apps and Google Classrooms that allow your students one-click access to Edulastic assessments from inside Google Classroom with no additional log-on. So it makes it really easy for them. Okay. So there's a bunch of great formative assessment methods, and if you haven't seen Edutopia's list of 53 ways to check for understanding, I have a link there. You should go to their site, and either you can type in 53 ways to check for understanding in the search box, or I'll send out the presentation after the webinar, and you can just click on the link here. It has a whole bunch of great techniques, and many of those techniques can be easily used online instead of paper. You know, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but there's several benefits to doing assessment online. First is that online assessment can be more engaging for students. Students can get immediate feedback on whether or not they're understanding concepts, and so they're more involved in the learning that way. There's quicker identification for teachers as well to spot misconceptions in students that are struggling. You can get automatically summarized quantitative data and track it over time so that you can measure understanding over time. And finally, you can do more frequent assessments. So if you're not passing out and collecting papers or even sticky notes, you have a chance to do formative assessment more often, which is really the great benefit. It looks like Janet is saying that here. I think if there's folks that can't hear, try to go to audio options and see. Okay. Hopefully she can get on the sound. All right. So so lots of people use Google Forms for assessment. So a lot of people use Google Forms for assessment, and that has pros and cons. And Google Forms has pros and cons. Some of the pros are that it's really easy to set up. You can add multimedia like images and video, and you already have it. If you're a Google school, you already have Google Forms. It's already installed, and it's free. But there are some cons as well. There's just 6 different types, and it does not grade very easily. There are some terrific plugins like Flubaroo that help grade Google Forms assessments, though but Google Forms isn't really designed for assessment, and so there's some workarounds, like students need to get their answers via email. and you have to set it up a certain way, so it's a little bit more trouble to get the grading piece. And then there's a limited reuse of previous assessments and items from previous assessments. So, so why try Edulastic instead of Google Forms? First and main reason is that it auto grades for you in real time without doing plugins. So whereas Flubaroo is a terrific plugin, it's a little bit of work to set up. Also, Edulastic will track standards mastery over time. You can reuse. You can use our item bank of pre-built questions, and you can create your own, and you can reuse ones that you've created and share with other teachers in your district. And we have 30 question types. Now, it's more, and this is the things that many teachers love about Edulastic is all the different technology-enhanced question types. And it is more difficult to create those than it is the quick formative assessment types that you might use in Google Forms. And so today, I'm going to focus on just the basic question types, how you would do them in Google Forms, and then how you would do them in Edulastic. You can see that there's a lot of that they're both very easy to create. So Google Forms have a date that I don't have on here, a date and time field, but their main question types are multiple choice, checkbox, short answer, paragraph, grid, and drop down. So Edulastic has those same question types plus drag and drop and label and image and number line and a whole bunch of other ones that, as I mentioned, are a little bit more challenging to create. Okay, so let's create an assessment in Google Forms and then the same one in Edulastic. Okay, so I am logged into a Google account, and I've brought up a Google form where you can just go to Google and you click New Document, and you choose a form, and this is the field that you get to. So I'm going to call this Quick Check for Understanding. And then you have a bunch of different question types. So my first question is going to be, what is 1/2 plus 1/3? And I'm going to make this a short answer box. So the student's going to put in the answer there. Okay, my next question is blank house is on fire. Okay, and I want to make this a drop down. And this is going to be there. So I'm just trying to have a mix of different questions that are kind of easy to do. And okay. All right. And then my next question, I'm going to do choose the best weight estimates for each item. So this one is going to be a grid where the students, multiple choice grid, where you have rows and columns. And so the columns are going to be grams and kilograms. And then on the rows, we'll have dining table. Tired today. Pencil and skateboard. Okay. So then I'm going to do the last question. Watch the video and answer the question about the moral. Select the moral of the story. Okay, so, and here I'm going to embed a video. And one of this is one of the great features of Google Forms. It's really easy to find video. Okay, so I'm going to use the grasshopper and the ants from the Aesop Fables and click Select. Okay, so I'm going to choose Save for a rainy day, work hard every day, and grasshoppers are lazy. All right. So now I have my 4 questions, and then I can preview, and so I can look and see what this quiz would look like for my students. So, what is 1/2 plus 1/3? And the student will answer here. Box. They will choose a drop-down. From there, there, and there, they'll be able to choose the weight estimates and then do the multiple choice question and then watch the video. So it's pretty easy to create quick assessments in Google Forms. Now I want to show you how to create this same assessment in Edulastic. So the idea is that it's just as easy to use those question types in Edulastic as it is to do it in Google Forms. So I'm over here logged in as a teacher in Edulastic, and I'm going to say create a new assignment. And call it Check for Understanding also. And in Edulastic, you align everything to the standards. So I'm going to align just to these standards right now. And the first question is a numeric one, 1/2 plus 1/3. So instead of using text, I'm going to use numeric. That way I can get auto scoring in terms of the mathematical equivalency. So what is 1/2 plus 1/3? And I want to code the answer here as 2.5556. Okay, and then I press Save, and I go to Review, and this shows the assessment as I'm building it. Add more. And remember, our next question was a text drop-down. So I'm going to say my text drop-down, house is on fire. And then my choices are going to be there, there, and there. And I'm going to choose this one as the correct answer. And I can also set the points here for every one of these questions. And then add more. I'll go to my next question. And I'll say my next question was the grid type. And so that is called matching tables in Edulastic. So on my matching tables, choose the best weight estimates for each item. And then I'll have grams and kilograms. So this works very similar to Google Forms in terms of just filling out the rows and the columns. And then I'll have my dining table, my pencil, add a new row, and my skateboard. Now, you can also, you'll notice, you can also add in images into here too, which would be kind of fun. So I'm going to code my answers here. I'm not going to allow multiple selection. Press Save. Oh, let's see. I changed the multiple selection. Okay. So then my last question, is a multiple choice. So I'm going to click these. And so all of these easier classic question types are here in the first tab. So I go to multiple choice and watch the video and select the best answer for the moral of the story. Okay, so then I go here to embed my video, and I need to go over to YouTube and get the embed code. Sorry, my internet's going a bit slowly. Okay, so we'll go to the grasshopper and the ants and go here to where it says share and embed, and I want to copy this embed code and I paste it into my quiz. Oh, I must have copied something incorrectly. Oh, I know. I have to change the iframe thing here. Sorry about that. It's not copying this whole thing. Okay. Better. Yeah, so there's a code in this one that's not allowing it to embed. But let me go ahead and normally that you paste that and it embeds it. So let me go ahead and add my choices here. Say for a rainy day and work hard every day, and then grasshoppers are lazy. And then I'm going to delete this answer choice that I don't need. And I'm going to press save. I'll have to select the correct answer and then go to review. So those are my 4 questions. So now I've created an assessment in Google Forms, my little 4-question assessment, and I've created the 4-question assessment over in Edulastic. So now I want to show you what it looks like in Edulastic. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to go ahead and press next. Then my assessment is finished. And I'm going to publish this and use later. So I'm going to save this in my library so that we can come back and use it later. I'll show you that in a minute. So once my students have taken the assessments, then, as I mentioned, Edulastic grades for you, and this is the kind of report that you'll get. And in a second, I'll show you what it looks like for a student, and you can see the real-time data. But here is an example of an assessment that's been completed, and all of the students have taken the assessment, and it shows me that these are the ones that they got correct, and the red they got incorrect, and the yellow, they got partially correct. So I can see in real time how all the students have done, and the students can as well. I can drill down on their individual answers and see how long they took with each question, see exactly what they put and what the correct answer was. I can give them feedback here. So there's a lot of terrific data that you get right away once the students have taken the assessment. Similarly, this is the averages for the whole class. So I can really quickly see that question 9 is something that I maybe need to reteach that some people are struggling with, as well as question 14 and 15, for example. 18 is a real problem, and 17 is going fine. So because you get this data in real time, it's super helpful in deciding where to go next. You can also download this data by clicking on Students, and you can download the grades into CSV. Which allows you to compare assessment over time. Also, because every question is aligned to Common Core standards, we have a report that shows whether the student's overall performance against the standards and whether they've mastered or not mastered it. Okay, so let me pull the slides back up here. All right, so this is where we were. Okay, so we've created an assessment in Edulastic and one in Google Forms. And now I've shown you how easy it is to create a basic assessment. Wait, I have a question here. Oh, let me stop for questions. What I've done so far. Okay, great. Oh, yeah, so many different forms. That's terrific. Oh, I'm glad that some people got the audio working. That's terrific. Okay, Joseph Espinoza asked, how does Edulastic define mastery? We have a default definition of mastery, which I think is the student has to have gotten 4 out of the last 5 attempts correct. But it is something that that you can configure on your own. So when you go to assign an assessment, and I'll show you that in 1 second, there is a place that you can edit the mastery criteria if you want to. Okay, so it looks like our only questions here. All right, so I've shown you how easy it is to create basic assessments in Edulastic, and now I want to show you how to sync Google Classroom so that for folks that use Google Classroom, you can see how easy it is to give the assessments that you've created and how it's really seamless for students. This is the same as Google Forms, which is also pretty seamless for the students with Google Classroom. So syncing with Google Classroom, what it does is it creates your class roster in Jelastic and keeps it updated, and it allows you to share assignments in your classroom stream with students, which gives students easy access with single sign-on so that the students don't have to come to edulastic.com, they don't have to log in. It makes it really easy for them. So here's how it works. I'm going to go back to my, so I'm logged in here as my teacher, as a Google Classroom teacher. So let me go to my sample class. And I'm also logged in to my Google Classroom. So these are my different classes. So sample class is the one that I'm going to sync. Here's my sample class for 2nd grade. And you know, if you use Google Classroom, you know that every class has a class code here. So here's where the class code is. And that's what I need to know to sync with Edulastic. So I'm in my Edulastic account. And it's important that the Edulastic account be the same login as the Google Classroom. So when you sign up for Edulastic, you need to be logged in as Google and choose the sign up with Google option. So when you first register for Edulastic as a teacher, you go to our site and you click sign up and create an account, and then one of the options is sign up with Google. And if you're logged into your school Google account, you just click that one button and then you're signed up. So I've already signed up with Google with my school Google credentials, and I'm logged in here. And what I want to do is go to the menu and go to Manage Class. So in Manage Class, you'll see I have sample class here. I have all my different classes. I have a bunch of test classes in this account. But I have a sample class, and I click this button right here, Sync with Google Classroom. It asks me to put in that code. So remember, my code is GLMLEP. I've done this before, so it already puts it in there for me. And then you click Sync, and then it syncs. So anytime, once you do the initial sync, all the students get put into your class, get rostered into your class. And then if you have new students that come, so you see there's nothing happening because I have no new students, but they put my one student in there. If you have new students that come or students that leave out of your Google Classroom, you just come back and click this button again, and it resyncs. It drops those students and brings in the new ones. So it's a really easy way to keep your roster updated. Okay. It looks like we have a couple more questions here. Stop for questions here. All right. So another question is the ability for teachers to sync and integrate with Google Classroom as easy to do on an iPad as it is with a laptop or desktop? I haven't, it should be. Edulastic is a browser-based product, so it should be easy to sync with Google Classroom from an iPad, though I haven't personally tried it. We test on iPads and Chromebooks. It is definitely easier to create assessments on a laptop or desktop versus an iPad. An iPad screen is small, and so creating assessments is a little bit harder, but taking them is just as easy. Okay, so now we've synced our Google Classroom roster with our Edulastic class, and now I'm going to show you how to share an assignment that you've created into your Google Classroom. So I'm going to go to My Assessments here, and this is the one that we just created, the Check for Understanding with our 4 questions. So here are our 4 questions, and then I'm going to click Assign to my sample class. And this is where we talked about earlier, you would edit the mastery criteria if you want to change your mastery criteria. So we have you have to have asked 5 questions on this standard. The student has to have answered 5 questions, and they have to have answered 80% correctly. So this is our default mastery, and you can change it. They have to answer 10 questions or something if you want to do that. So I'm on the Assign screen, and now I'm going to assign it to my class. I have to put in a short name. And then I can put in a due date, which will require the students to turn it in by a certain time. Then I can choose whether or not I want the students to immediately see the feedback, which is when I choose grade release on assignment submission, which means that the students get these answers immediately as soon as they submit their test, or I can choose to give it to them later. So if I release the grades explicitly by the teacher, it means that at some other time, maybe at the end of the class period or tomorrow, when I've had a chance to grade it or everyone has had a chance to take the quiz, I could, especially for more chapter tests and things like that, you might want to do explicitly by teacher to wait to give the students the answers. But for formative assessment, this is one of the huge benefits, is that you get it straight away. Okay, then I'm going to click Assign. And you'll see once I've assigned, I get this choice to share it in Google Classroom. So I'm going to click Share. I'm going to click Google Classroom to share it there. And it says, which class do I want to share it with? I'm going to share it with my sample class. And I can share it as an assignment or a question or an announcement. So most of the time, an assessment is going to be an assignment, so you'll put the assignment. And I can change the title. So the default assignment in my Google Classroom will be Check for Understanding, the name of the quiz that's in Edulastic. This is a little message to the student that Google puts in. I can say when it's due. So the default due date is the one that I had put in Edulastic. And then here's the link. So I'm going to click Assign. Okay. And let me go over to my class. Now I probably should have pressed View. Now I've got to refresh. And here it is. Here's our Check for Understanding. And here's the link. It's created as an assignment. Okay, so now I want to, so we have a couple of other questions, and then I'll show you what it looks like to the student. All right, so we have a question, if you don't check gradable, will students still get instant feedback? Yes, if you checking gradable or not gradable governs whether or not students get points or whether they get just correct and correct. So most of the time you want to put gradable because you want to have you know, a point score, a point value. But you may not. So that's why gradable is the default. Let's see, another question is, I noticed the short name needs to be unique. And the question is that just within the class or global among all your classes? I'm actually not sure about that. I should find out. The short name, let me just explain what the short name is used for. When we have reports that that have multiple assessments on them, and the name of the assessment is too long to fit, that's when we use the short name. So so it's not used very often. I usually use version 1, version 2, or some version of the date for my short name, and it also allows you to distinguish between sample quiz that I gave this week and sample quiz next week, for example. And I think the short name needs to be unique across all the classes is what my gut would tell me. Okay, so the next question is a great question also, is what happens if they don't submit the test by the due date? So currently, currently when the due date passes, it's a little bit like the students all turned in their paper. So the student won't be able to work on it after the due date, unless you reassign the assessment. We are changing that soon so that you would be able to you will be able to pause the assessment and reopen it later. So there's going to be some flexibility in the next couple of months about students that don't complete by the due date. We are also in the summer going to make the due date optional so that if you don't want to choose the due date, it'll just be open until you decide to close it and make it due. So there's a lot of good improvements coming related to the due date and to absent students and to having assignments open. Thanks for the great questions. The next thing I want to do is go over to the student. So remember what I've done here is I have created an assessment in Edulastic, shared it in Google Classroom, and so here it is in my Google Classroom stream, and I want to show you what it looks like for the student. So if I go over here, I'm now a student in the sample class, and let me refresh my screen also. Right. Okay, so I'm a student, and you'll see that here is my classroom stream, and my Check for Understanding quiz is due tomorrow, and so here is my assignment. And what I need to do is I can open the assignment and look at the due date and stuff. And then I click on the link. I can also just click on the link. And in a new tab, it opens Edulastic to the first question in the assessment. So the student doesn't have to go to Edulastic separately. They can just, oh, they must have logged me out. I logged in before this webinar started, so I've been out for a while, so it's probably logged me out. Okay, so here we go. So here is my assignment, and I'm going to click on the assignment as a student. And I'm going to fill this out. get some of these wrong here. Okay, I get some of these incorrect. Okay. Now you'll see that when the student submits the assignment, because I chose grade upon submission, the student gets the answers immediately. I can go back and, as a student, I can go back and look and see. Here is my answers, and here are the correct answers. And if I go back over to the teacher view in Edulastic, you'll see that you'll see the real-time data happening. Okay, so here's the assignment that we're working on, check for understanding. So I'm going to view responses, and here are the answers that I just put. So here is my student, and here is the time that I spent on each question. And then I can, as a teacher, I can drill down and see all the students' work, and leave feedback for the students. I can see which ones they got incorrect. So it's I didn't have to grade, and it gave me the data right away as soon as my student completed the assignment. Okay, so do we have any other questions? Okay, so other questions. All right, let me just look at questions. Let's see. Okay, so let's see. We got several questions here. What happens if you stay on that side? Due date I asked that. Okay, so release grades for all students. What is that about? So the question here is, what is releasing grade? What does releasing grades for all students do? Let me just show my screen again. If I release the grade, releasing the grades will if I had chosen to release the grades explicitly by teacher, then I would click on this to release the grades for all the students, which would give the students the feedback. In this case, I don't have to release those grades because they already saw their feedback. However, if I decided as a teacher that I wanted to give them additional, teacher feedback about, good job or something like that, or if there were any manually scored items, which essay type is the only one that's manually scored, then once I have given all that feedback for the students, and perhaps I can also give them partial credit, once I had done all of that, then I can go back and release the grades. I can release the grades for one student, or I can release the grades for all the students, which would give them the feedback. So hopefully I answered that question. Okay, other questions. Let's see. So it's more of releasing manually updated stuff. Yes, Tom, that's right. It's a release grade is to either give the students the feedback if you've chosen not to give them the scores immediately because you maybe don't want them to cheat by looking on their friend's computer. You could wait to release the grades. You could release the grades explicitly by the teacher, which would not give the students the answers until you release the grades. And it will also give your feedback released. Okay, next question is Edulastic working on integration with Schoology or Microsoft OneNote class notebooks? Schoology is on our list. To do. Maybe next school year we will try to do an integration with Schoology. We have, when I showed you sharing the assessment with Google Classroom, when you click the one button to share the assessment with Google Classroom, let me just go back to that. So I am over here on my Assignments tab, and I can so when I assigned an assessment, I was able to, let me just assign this one and I'll show you what I mean. All right, when I was assigning an assessment, I could share it here with Google Classroom with one click. I can also copy this URL and share this URL in another LMS. So Schoology, or you could share it on a classroom blog or something like that. And that will also behave the same as Google Classroom in the sense that when students click on this link, they will go right to the first page of the assessment. You don't have the integration with the single sign-on unless you're also using single sign-on with Google. But this is a way that you can put links into other LMSs besides just Google Classroom. I should mention that you can use Google Classroom. You can use Google Single Sign-On without using Google Classroom. So you can, your students can sign up, and there's some videos on our YouTube channel that show you how to do this. There's students can sign up using their Google credentials, or you can upload a CSV with your Google credentials, and the students, if they're, say, logged into their Chromebook, when they come to Edulastic, it's a one-click log on. So that makes it a lot easier, even if you're not syncing your roster with Google Classroom or sharing the assessments that way. Okay, so let me get another question. Next question. Is there a way to not assign a specific student that is absent on the day of the assessment? So when you have a student that is absent on the day of the assessment, if you give an assessment and you have a student that did not start the assessment, they will be marked as absent, and then their assessment won't be scored automatically. So we mark absent students automatically. I think you might be asking, though, so that it doesn't mess up your data, although I think you might be asking, can you exclude a student so that they can't work on it at home instead of in class? Janet, you let me know a little bit more about what your concern or your use case is. Okay, Gina's asking, when creating an assessment, is the standard for the question created as well? What if it's the wrong standard? Can you change the standard? And the answer to that is yes. You can edit. You can align questions to more than one standard, and you can also edit the standards that the question is aligned to. So if you are, let me just show you where that is. So for example, if you choose an assessment out of the library, and you find that it's aligned to the incorrect standard, you can make a copy of that question and you can align it to a different standard. So for example, let me go to my assessments one that I've created. That'll be easier. Okay, so I'm going to go to this assignment here that we created. I'm going to look at this question, and it shows me that this one is currently aligned to 2OA1. I can edit it. And then down here where it says Standards Alignment, I click on there, and I click Edit Standards for this question. And I can uncheck. I have to check something else first. Let's say that it should be 2MBT instead of 2OA1. So now I can align it to this one. Or I could align it to both of those. And now it's aligned to 2MBT1 and 2OA1. And then press Save, and that's how I would align it to something new. All right, hopefully I answered that question. Let's see. Is there any way that you know of to import Google Form questions easily into Edulastic for creating a new assignment? Unfortunately, I don't know of an easy way to import questions like that, partially because you have in Edulastic, when you're creating a question, you have to code the answer key, which is not something that you do in Google Forms. And so I don't know of an easy way to import, but you can copy and paste into Edulastic assessments. Today, I typed everything from scratch, but you can also copy and paste. So then the next question is the drawing tools a new thing on questions? I just noticed that. Yeah, so let me show the Scratchpad. I think what you're talking about is the Scratchpad. And it's not very new, but it's the Scratchpad. You can make a Scratchpad available based on whether you created the question that way. So let me go back to my assessments here. And we'll work on our check for understanding. And I'll edit this. And then I'm going to add more questions. So let me show you how to add the Scratchpad. So let's say I wanted to do multiple choice. No. Let's say I wanted to do a numeric question that is, simplify. Let me put in a math symbol just for fun here. I'm going to put in 5x squared minus 25. Or factor, I guess. Okay, so that's not going to work. I'm trying to make questions on the fly here. Let's do this. Solve 3x plus 12 equals 20. Show your work. And so the answer to this is going to be, let's see, 19, 21, 24. Okay, so then x is going to be 4. All right, so now I have my question, and I want the student to show their work. So I click Allow Student to use Scratchpad. Save. And then when I go to Student Preview, you can see that the student puts the answer here. And they can click on Scratchpad, and they get all kinds of different tools. They can use the text tool, for instance, and they can say, 3x equals 12, and then x equals 4, for example. Or they could use a pencil tool and say, 3x plus 12 equals 24. And then they could say, minus 12, minus 12. And then, this is 3x on this side, so you could do something like this. And this whole screen is saved as an image for the teacher, so you can see their work. There's also different circles and squares. There's a protractor and a ruler. A lot of different tools here, and then the student can close that up. So Scratchpad is a really great way, especially in math, to have this piece auto-scored so that you get the data immediately, but then allow the students to show their work so that you can give partial credit. Okay, other questions? Let's see. All right. Other questions. Alrighty. Yeah, so one other question on the Scratchpad. Yeah, so one of the other questions on the Scratchpad is you can if you put an image, if you embed an image into the question, then the Scratchpad will come over, just like I showed you how it came over the box. The Scratchpad will come over the image. So you can also have students, bisect an angle or label things on a drawing and that sort of thing. So it's a really flexible tool. I've also seen teachers use it for an answer eliminator. So you could enable the Scratchpad. The student could, over the multiple choice questions, could put X's or lines through in order to eliminate answers to help them understand the question. So one more question on Scratchpad. It looks like with Scratchpad, yes. So that's correct. With Scratchpad the Scratchpad piece is not auto-graded. Only the underlying question is auto-graded. So if in my example, if the student did not put 4, they would have gotten the answer incorrect. But you would be able to see by looking at their work on the Scratchpad, you'd be able to see where they made their mistake, and maybe you want to give them half credit. So you can manually change that to 0.5 instead of 0 point. Similarly, if the student got it correct and put 4, and they did not use sound reasoning, you could take off by manually overriding those scores. And the great thing from formative assessment is that you really get to see the students thinking on the Scratchpad. Okay, so another question is, does Edulastic only support the use of scoring, or can rubrics be used, such as LDC rubrics or teacher-designed rubrics? On Monday, we will support rubric scoring. Right now, it's going to be in beta, but you will be able to create a rubric by creating your various grading criteria and your scale, 1 to 3 or 1 to 5, and then you'll be able to fill out that rubric. So, look for that to be widely available in the next few months. Okay, do we have any other questions? All right, so if we don't have additional questions now, I want to thank everybody for coming to the webinar today. I'm going to send a link to the recording tonight so that you can review or send it to colleagues that couldn't make it. If you're a Google school, I hope that you can try out some of these new integrations. If you get stuck or you need some help, and yeah, I'm going to send the PowerPoint also with the link. I'll post it up on SlideShare and send a link to the PowerPoint as well. If you get stuck, make sure to check out our help section. We have a good YouTube channel, and you can also send requests to support@edulastic.com. I'm also happy for you to send me email too. My email is leslie.tyler@edulastic.com. So I'm easy to reach as well. And I hope you give it a try. So I thank you for taking Forms seriously as a friendly competitor. And it's funny that you say that. I don't really consider Forms a competitor. I love Google Forms. I use it all the time for various things. It just for assessment, it has some limitations. So Edulastic is also free for teachers. So I'm hoping that you'll give it a whirl. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.